Imagine hitchhiking on a sunny California day in 1977, trusting that your next ride will take you safely to your destination. Now, imagine stepping into a car only to find yourself plunged into a 7-year nightmare. This is the story of Colleen Stan, a story of survival, resilience, and unimaginable horror. Colleen Stan was just 20 years old. She was carefree, adventurous, and on her way to surprise a friend for her birthday. Hitchhiking was common back then, and Colleen had done it before. But on May 19, 1977, everything changed. She was picked up by a seemingly harmless couple, Cameron and Janice Hooker. With them in the car was their baby. Colleen's instincts told her that this was a safe choice. After all, who would suspect a young couple with a baby of harboring sinister intentions? But Colleen's gut told her something wasn't right. She noticed how Cameron kept glancing at her in the rearview mirror. She ignored the feeling and stayed in the car. Soon, it was too late to turn back. Cameron drove them to an isolated area. There, he pulled over, pulled out a knife, and forced Colleen into his twisted world. She was blindfolded, gagged, and her hands were bound. From that moment, Colleen's life was no longer her own. Cameron wasn't just any kidnapper. He was a sadistic predator with a meticulously planned fantasy. He had built a coffin-sized box, a wooden structure where Colleen would spend most of her days for the next 7 years. Yes, you heard that right. 7 years. Let's take a moment to understand just how controlled and isolated Colleen was. The box was dark, airless, and stifling. For up to 23 hours a day, Colleen was confined inside. She was only let out to be tortured or perform household chores. Cameron wanted complete control over her, and he got it. But the box wasn't just a physical prison. It was a tool for Cameron's psychological torment. She was given a contract and forced to sign herself into slavery for life in January 1978. In view from the box, propped up against her purse under the bed, was a photo of Marie Elizabeth Spanhake, a previous victim whose body was never found. Cameron brainwashed Colleen, convincing her that he was a part of a powerful organization called the Company. He claimed that they were always watching, and if she tries to escape, they would kill her and her family. Colleen believed him. This manipulation worked. Cameron used fear to control her, turning her into a prisoner who wouldn't dare run, even when opportunities arose. For years, Colleen endured unspeakable abuse, physically, emotionally, and mentally. Colleen was allowed to visit her family by herself in 1981, but did not reveal his situation due to the fear of the possible consequences. Her family thought she was involved in a cult because of her homemade clothes, lack of money, and absence of communication over the years. They did not want to pressure her, fearing she would stay away forever. The next day, Colleen returned for a second visit, with Cameron posing as her boyfriend. At the trial, Colleen explained that she was happy about visiting her family, who was therefore able to take a photograph of her and Cameron happily smiling together. But who was Cameron? And how did his wife Janice become complicit in such horrific acts? Cameron was a man obsessed with dominance and control. His fantasies were violent, and he sought a woman to fulfill them without resistance. Janice, his wife, had been under his control long before Colleen entered the picture. Cameron manipulated her too, convincing her that allowing him to abduct another woman would save her from his abuse. Over time, Janice began to question her husband's actions. The abuse she witnessed and her own guilt started to weigh on her. In 1984, she finally broke after Cameron admitted to his wife that he would like Colleen to be his second wife. In an interview for the Girl in the Box movie, Colleen told the interviewer that she went to the bus station and called Cameron to inform him that she was leaving him, and that he reacted by bursting into tears. Colleen then caught a bus home. In the months that followed, she did not contact the police, but continued to call Cameron regularly. She explained this in the trial by saying that she wanted to give Cameron, at Janice's request, a chance to reform. 3 months later, Janice reported her husband to the police. Janice informed the police that Cameron had previously kidnapped, tortured, and murdered 19-year-old Marie Elizabeth, who had disappeared on January 31st, 1976, from Chico, California. According to Janice, Marie was walking home when she and Cameron picked her up before driving her to their home, where she was hung from her wrists in the basement, undressed, and tortured for an entire day. Marie was then shot in the stomach and strangled by Cameron. The couple wrapped Marie's body in blankets and buried her in a shallow grave near Lassen Volcanic National Park. Authorities were unable to locate any remains, and due to the lack of physical proof, no murder charge was brought. Colleen's escape was just the beginning of a new battle. In 1985, she took the stand to testify against Cameron, but her nightmare wasn't over. In court, the defense tried to portray her as a willing participant, arguing that she could have escaped earlier but chose to stay. Imagine surviving years of unimaginable trauma, only to have your character questioned in a courtroom. But Colleen's strength never wavered. She told her story with courage, and the jury believed her. Cameron Hooker was sentenced to 104 years in prison, and in 2021, he was released on parole to the Department of State hospitals. Today, nearly 40 years later, Colleen Stan's story is a testament to the strength of the human spirit. After her escape, she faced years of therapy and emotional healing. She leaned on her faith and family to rebuild her life, proving that even the darkest experiences can be overcome.